The plight of the boy child and how to raise boys in society today. There's been a lot of discussion around the fact that there's too much focus on girls and girls initiatives and empowerment programs. Not that we're saying all has been done. There still remains a lot to be done to empower and uplift the lives of the girl child. But what about the boys? Where have they been left in all of this? So we have some panelists tonight. It's a conversation that we'd love you to join in on. Please use the hashtag MondaySpecialKE on Twitter or text us on 22422. Leave your name and location and let us know your thoughts. I'm going to go around now and introduce my panelists. We'll start on my left. We have Eric Munyoki. Eric Munyoki is a program coordinator for a program known as Boys to Men. He'll be letting us know a little bit more about what the program entails later on, but it's to do with mentorship of young boys and fathers as well, but he'll give us more details. Then we have Brian Kerr, who is a young man, 25 years old, who'll give us the youth perspective on the place of the boy child in society today. On my right, we have Sally Mahihu. Sally Mahihu is a life coach. She's a mentor, and she runs a program known as Seasoned Woman. And she's very passionate about discussing the boy child. She's raised 2 sons as well. So she'll tell us more about the parenting perspective as well as the life coach and mentoring perspective. And then finally, we have John Kanyoni, who is a father of 4 boys as well, in fact, 4 young men and a daughter as well. He's also gone through a program known as Man Enough, so he'll tell us more about that. Thank you all so much for being here. I think you all agree that it's timely. It's about time we had this discussion. Yeah. So maybe I should start off by just getting a very quick comment from each of you on whether you think there's actually a crisis around the boy child today. Let's start with you, Eric.
I think there's a crisis.
Yeah.
I absolutely believe that there's one. Looking at where the boys are, because I primarily work in high schools, and just looking at the issues that the boys present, I have come to the firm conclusion that
there's a crisis. Yeah. Okay, we'll come and get details from you. Brian, as a young man.
Yes, I think there's a crisis.
Yeah.
I think most of us young guys, we suffer from the issue of identity. We fail to find an identity, so we find ourselves confined in the wrong groups. So we suffer so much, and us being men, by you coming out and saying you are lacking a pulse of identity, it becomes a struggle.
Okay.
You look like you're not a man.
All right. Yes. I'd really be curious to talk to you a little later on as we go on some of the key issues that you're seeing as a young man. Sally, yourself?
Definitely there's a crisis, Janet, and more so because we are realizing the fatherless generation, where the sons seem to respond the sons seem to take it harder than the girls when we deal with the father wound and the father fracture, where there's a missing father, or single parent situations. The families I've dealt with and the boys I've dealt with, the boys take it harder. So there is a need to address the situation.
Okay.
Yes,
all
there
right.
is definitely.
And finally, John.
It's true, Janet, the crisis has been there. It's only that now we are waking up, because it has reached a level that the young ones, the upcoming, the boys who are growing up, they are actually now trying to find themselves, like Brian has rightly said. They are trying to find their identity.
Yeah.
But the main cause and the main problem is actually now from us, the dads.
The dads.
Yes.
Let's stay with you for a bit. In your time growing up,
yes,
was there this issue about men not having an identity or boys not having an identity, or have you slowly seen it occur in society?
I've slowly seen it occur in society. During my time, well, the fathers would be there, but the society would take upon itself to be able to mentor the boys either in the village or within the society.
Yeah.
But then when we started, now life started becoming very fast in the 70s, and now through to the 80s or the 90s, that you found now it's like everyone for himself.
Okay.
Now the fathers, now we have now our own peer pressure. You know, we always think that peer pressure is to the young ones, but we have our own peer pressure at our level. Because of that competition, then we started now neglecting the children. We started now trying to, like it's always said, trying to invest for them. But the pain now is, today you find that we try to invest now for them instead of in them. Now we are the ones who are crying.
Oh, investing for them but not in them.
Yes.
And you're trying to do the best you can, because you feel like as a parent, I want to make sure that at the end of it all, they're able to have a sustainable life. But through that, you lose them. in that. That's what you're saying.
True.
That's very interesting. Do you agree with that?
I agree with John. Yes, I agree with John
yeah.
completely. There's a danger in working, the rat race of working so hard to make a good income so that they go to good schools, good universities. You give them a head start, like something to start on. And in the process, we don't spend enough time with the children.
Wow.
We don't mentor them one-on-one.
Yeah.
And that is a problem.
Okay.
And we're realizing it a bit late, and we need to get back to where it's investing in them. Not necessarily for them. There needs to be a balance.
All right. I'll come back and ask the two of you about raising sons, because you've both raised sons.
Yeah.
And come to Eric and Brian, and maybe Brian, starting with you. Where do you think the gaps are? You've talked about the fact that young men and young boys lack an identity. Would you say it's because there's not enough focus on mentorship of boys, or there's too much focus on the girls? Where do you think the issue lies?
I definitely think the issue came in when our parents started focusing so much on careers. They forgot about the children. And the problem was, once you're a boy, it's normally assumed that you'll pick stuff from your friends, you'll pick stuff from others.
You'll wing it.
You'll wing it.
Yeah.
So the problem arose there, whereby us as men, the love we get from our parents used to be measured. When you become number one in school, the love will be so much. When you're number 4 or start number 1 from the bottom, the love is little. So the problem came there, so we had to look for an identity through our friends. And our friends, normally, we pick the negative things rather than the positive things.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem we face.
Is it anything that you personally have struggled with?
Yes, it's something that I've struggled with. I remember when I was growing up, my dad, I used to fear my dad. Meaning we couldn't have a conversation. The only conversation we used to have is, give me a report card.
Okay.
That was the conversation we used to have.
Yeah.
And after giving the report card, the conversation would be measured by how I performed. If I had performed well, words like, you are my son, you are bright, could come out. But if I was a failure, I was referred back to my mom. Go see your mom.
Wow.
Yes, so that was the problem.
Yeah.
So, in as much as our mom tried to raise us, she was a woman.
Yeah.
She couldn't teach us everything.
Yeah.
So we had to look for groups of guys in school to teach you the cool stuff.
Wow.
There's someone who's always the alpha friend, the one who leads the pack.
Yeah.
So the one who leads the pack, normally is a bad person.
Yeah.
Always is a bad person.
So they get you into all kinds of trouble.
Get you into all kinds of trouble.
So you've all, interestingly enough, you've all mentioned parenting.
Yes.
You know, and I think, Eric, you'll say the same thing as someone who's been a part of these programs like Boys to Men, which you'll tell us a little bit about later. You've interacted with a lot of young boys in high school. What do they tell you about their place in society?
Well, it's interesting what Brian is saying. For boys, it is assumed that you already know what to do. This is where statements like, you know, be a man come from. But they have no idea what being a man actually means, because their dad was never around to show them what masculinity actually meant. Their dad was never around to show them the ropes, as it were. And in as much as it's a parental issue, I also believe that, as John was saying, the parents were busy, you know, working, trying to raise money for these kids to go to good schools and the likes. And so, essentially, a situation of absenteeism was created, not because the parents wanted to, but because economy.
Yeah, they were doing the best that they could, which is, yes.
I want to say something. The young man pointed out something very important about the conditional love based on your performance. And this is something, personally, I am, and many parents may not agree with me, I'm not into the academics. You know, there's this thing about he must get this degree, must get this PhD, this MBA. I don't know. I've seen it. I've thought, I want my sons to have the character, to have the ability to handle life, and those are life skills you impart on your children and you teach them. So that, to me, that having the degrees and the top level career hasn't been the most important thing. I felt that I would rather my son was able to cope with life. He had the right values. He had the strength of a man, a leader, a responsible citizen, than having all these MBAs and degrees and they're not taking him anywhere at the end of the day. So I agree with you. With something we've missed there.
And is that how you raised your two sons?
I did. And I'm in a situation where there's a very good father as well.
Sure.
So we did a balance. If it was left to me, I probably would have said they shouldn't study that much, as long as they can. Because most of these children are intelligent, as it were, and life skills can get you very far if you teach them and impart. So I focused a lot on the issue of character, the issue of handling people, relationships. Can you come out of a crisis? Can you come out of a crisis? What are your values in life? What are your mission statements? And I know my husband was more on the issue of academics. So we balanced each other somehow, thank God. But I know there are other situations when you don't have that balance. But I agree that we need to also look at the build-up. What makes a young man? What makes a son? More than the degrees and the MBAs.
You can comment and then we'll come to you.
Even on the issue of character. When you are growing up, you are told men don't cry.
Wow.
So you'll come home crying, somebody beat me at school. They'll be like, why are you crying? You're supposed to pray back, be a man, and suck it up. That was there. So while growing up, crying was never an option. You're supposed to be beaten, suck it up, pay back. It was rather your parent is calling school, your child fought with but not that you're coming home
and you're crying. Who are you crying for?
Why are you crying? So those are the small things that they never invested in us. So while you're growing up, let's say you end up dating or getting married, the wife is crying, you're like, this is childish.
Wow.
We're grown up. So you see, somewhere in a subconscious, you're like trained, when you cry, you are a child. It's not that you're feeling pain, you're becoming childish.
Wow. Okay, that's powerful.
No, I actually agree. And the thing is, it's always said you can always give out what you have. Now the pressure on the boy child is we are expecting too much on the boy child to give out what has not been given into that boy child. From the time the baby is born, the baby boy, it's kind of like the baby boy will actually find himself feeble around and find himself and just grow up. While we look at the girl as tender and tend to take care much more of the girl, for the boy, you can fight out, you can struggle out. Then you are told, like Brian has said, be a man. Men don't do that, men don't do that. Then you are wondering, what, men don't do this, but you're not being told, what do men do? You see? So there's a lot of pressure, a lot of expectation from the boy child. And as they grow up, as they reach teenage, they lose it. And the next thing now is they revolt. They want to find out. I've always been told, men don't do this, men don't do this. Now I want to be a man. Now they become men in the wrong reasons. Because they will always now try to show that I'm the Jicho man, I'm the man, pick up from the movies. What guys do in the movies, that's what now they start thinking that this is what they do. But apparently from what was said is true, because earlier, much earlier on, and I'm still going back to, I like history, because I like tracing it out. From the 60s, something to me happened in the 60s. Young men started getting jobs in this country because of the Africanization after we got independence. And these young men started moving from the villages, getting jobs in towns. Those young men were our fathers. They came to towns, but with the kind of jobs they got and the kind of employment that they got, they could not be able to afford to live with their families. Most of them were living in bachelor's quarters, sharing and what have you. So they left now the children with their mothers down in the village. So mothers now started becoming fathers, something that they didn't know. Fortunately, because of the society, there was a bit of improvement. There was a bit of taking care. But these men would always go once in a month to see now the family. And when the father gets, the man now gets down in the village, he has his parents to see, he has the villagers to see, he has his wife to see, children will come last. Actually, children used to see the fathers on Sundays when they are escorting them now to, you know, to come back now to
So you think the disconnect started at that point?
Yes.
Interesting.
Then now those children that were brought up then are now the parents today. They didn't get the virtues of parenting. They didn't see how a husband treats a wife. They didn't see how a father lives with the children. Now they are being called upon today to be husbands and fathers. It's difficult.
Okay, I know there's so much. We need to take a short break. I want to come back into, you've just explained when it started to kind of break down.
Yes.
And also talk a little bit about that debate around there's so much focus on the girl child, there's not enough on the boy child, and how we can kind of look at that. Remember to talk to us, use the hashtag MondaySpecialKE on Twitter. Send us your thoughts and views or text us on 22422. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with Monday Special, where tonight we're talking about raising sons, or the plight of the boy child in society, something that a lot of people have talked about. It's now a conversation we're having and trying to ascertain, is it really a crisis, and if so, what can we do to make sure that boys and young men in society begin to feel their place and see their identity in society. Here's some feedback on SMS. He didn't leave, and I'm guessing this is a man, but he didn't leave his name or location, but he says boys are not to be pampered. They have to experience the Spartan effect, which, you know, obviously is from the movie, no, what is it called? 300. 300. This is the responsibility of a father or other male relatives. Boys who are spoiled end up playing puppies to their wives in future. So I think after I read this feedback, I'd love to hear yours. And then someone else here, he says, he calls himself Paul from Isili, says, I think a boy child nowadays is not only losing an identity, but also becoming an endangered species. This is because the girl child is focused on more, not just in schools, but even in job interviews. Equal treatment is now required. So those are two different views. So on the one hand, I think this is very much like what you said about your dad. Become a Spartan, you know, don't cry, etc. And then the other one is about we need equal opportunity. Maybe now it's time to bring in this sensitive subject, kind of sensitive, about there's too much focus on girls and women and not enough on boys. What do you have to say about that? There's all these programs that, you know, people are running, organizations, etc., addressing the plight of the girl child but not of the boy child, and that's creating or deepening the crisis. Maybe I can start with you, Eric.
Yeah, I do not want to downplay these programs, because there has been a lot of injustice as far as the girl child is concerned, and that needed correction. But in the process, the boy has been forgotten. I was actually looking at some paper that I came across from Moi University, and this researcher was talking about boys in Keio South who are dropping out of school at an alarming rate. And what he was fronting was that because now education is free, parents are sending girls to school, and these boys now are being called back home to take care of family property and the likes. And so we are having a situation where, especially in Keio South, more girls are graduating out of high school than the boys are. We really need to correct this injustice that is happening, because
have they said how that's affecting that particular community or that society? That particular community.
He didn't quite mention that, but I would believe that we are now going to get girls that are more empowered. What will happen is that they will now leave the community, they will go on to university and the likes, and they will then leave these boys essentially back at home without, you know,
without the same empowerment.
Exactly.
Your thoughts on that, Sally, especially as a woman? What do you think about that? The fact that, like he's saying, there's a focus on the girl child, and we can't downplay that. You know, there's still a need there, but in the process, there's kind of been neglect on the side of boys.
I think, okay, going backwards, we ask ourselves, why in the first place did we start focusing on the girl? There had been a neglect for years on the girl, and suddenly there was that empowerment almost overnight. Suddenly we realized we started empowering the girl, and in the process of empowering those girls, I think, I don't know whether it's a girls just caught like thirst. These were thirsty creatures, and when we started empowering them, they caught this empowerment and ran with it so fast that they're so much ahead now, it would appear. And the boy who had relatively been privileged in a way, the boys are the ones who are taken to school, unlike the girls, suddenly looked relegated to the back. What I heard a teacher tell me that in schools these days, one of these schools in Nairobi, when you're looking for, in a play, when you're looking for a character for the king, you find none of the boys want to do that. They're standing at the back timid, and the girls are the ones who want to play king, and they end up playing king and whatever. Then I thought, I think there had been such a neglect on the girl. And when she got empowered, she really got empowered. And she stood out so aggressively that the boy looked neglected. I think boys talk less also, so they express themselves less. So us women, when we get empowered and we go into the corporate world, and look at you, Janet, and you begin to do what you're supposed to do, you stand out. You visibly do it and you stand out. But I think guys are a bit silent on it. They're not as maybe as loud as us
or
women.
outspoken.
So I think they look neglected. And the question is, who has done statistics to actually tell us that proportionately the boy child has been that neglected?
Okay, very good point. I know you want to speak. Please hold your thoughts, because I want to hear it, but I really want to hear from you, Brian, on that.
As to me, the issue about the girl child being empowered, I think they took the perspective of it's a competition. So the boy child was ahead. So it was all about the girl child to come
and catch up.
But the problem came in by them pushing the girl child to come here. They were pressing the boy child. You should remain at that level. You should.
Do you think that's the? Do you think that message was deliberately passed on that way, or it was subconsciously?
It was subconsciously passed on until no one, even by saying the statistics. Back when I was growing up, we used to do statistics in a traffic jam. We could observe the big cars, which people are driving these big cars, and we could observe these small cars. It came to our notice that the big cars are being driven by women, and the small cars, you can find like a man in a saloon car, you see. But someone gave a statement. This guy is paying the fees, he's paying the rent, but the wife has to buy a car because he has to feel at the same level. So when you are growing up, you are given duties. By me coming home and telling my wife, we should share rent, I'm a lesser man. I should provide this rent. So meaning by the empowerment, you are given this space of, you're supposed to declare, you're supposed to dictate. You are a woman. Stand ground.
Again, before I come to you, John, so what kind of, how should the message have been translated? Because like Sally has said, boys now, and I've also observed the same, they tend to be a bit more meek. They're not, they're not speaking out as much. She gave an example of if it's a school play, for example, but there's many others. So what would it take to raise your voices again? What kind of communication would that entail? I
think the empowerment should be based like the girl child and the boy child, they should be raised up as a team, where you're supposed to complement each other. Yes, there's some things you can't do, there's some things I can do. That does not mean you are lesser. That's what should have happened. And by us saying empowerment, the issue comes here is whereby we pick materialistic stuff. When you say a girl child empowerment, we see this campaign of, let's say, pads, let's say, clothes. But when you say a male child empowerment, we're like, so what are you giving him? Shorts, t-shirts, shoes? You should focus on the inner self, the character. To a man, if you build the character, everything else will come up.
Okay, let's now get your feedback.
Now, I agree with what Sally is saying, because again, like I said, history, that's what it has shown. But if you look at what is happening today, yes, the girl child quite empowered. But the question we're asking in other circles is, we have empowered these girls too much. The question is, who will marry these girls?
That's a problem.
That's a problem.
Yes,
because that's a problem now we are having in the society. We have empowered them too much. The boys are, like you say, they're timid, they're not fighting out. I know somebody asked in somewhere else, but who has empowered these girls? Is it the boys? Is it the men? The men gave way because the society that time, like it is right to feel true, women were oppressed. You will note that before 1978, no single woman had an ID in this country. So from that time when they started now coming up, now I have an ID, I can open a bank account, I can do ABCD, and then now somewhere in the 90s, now most women started going back to college. And they will go to college in the evenings, whether they are being paid for by their husbands or from maybe their parents or whatever source. Now, that now started making them go up. Now, from what Brian has said, the man, because of the responsibility of the man, most men could not afford to upgrade at that time because of the responsibilities. You're already in a marriage, you already have a wife, the children are coming up. So, most what came up in your mind now is trying to look for resources to provide. Now, again, that is where we lost it as men. We went full throttle looking for the resources. We neglected now the family.
The family.
That's where now I was saying we now again don't even have time for the family. So the mother is there with the kids, but the father is not there.
He's absent.
He's absent.
Okay. I want to ask Eric a question before I also come back to your bad parenting boy. At what point then, and maybe even John, even Sally, you can step in. So then at what point, based on the program you have, it's called Boys to Men, at what point do you start to engage these boys in terms of their role in society? And everything from what it means to be a family person, when do you talk to them about sex, when do you talk to them about how their lives complement those of women, hygiene, just being an all-rounded person. At what age do you think that would be the most appropriate?
I think these are lessons that should actually be ongoing as they're growing up.
When they're from how old? From and then I'll hear from the two of you as parents, but
when kids are young, going up to the age of 7, the mom is the one who plays the most important role in that child's life, and mom nurtures the child. But from age 7 going on to about 13, that's when dad now steps in. That's where values are thrown in. That's where he's taught these things about being a man, leading up to when he'll be initiated. From 13 onwards to 17 or so, that's where mentors step into on the plate. And that's actually the place that we have set ourselves up as Boys to Men, where we go into schools and we teach them about identity, sexuality. We have a very important topic called the dad factor, because as John will mention, and we have a camp that we do with Man Enough, where men come and it's called the resolution camp, and they come and they resolve to do particular things. And many of them talk about wounds that they have carried from their dads from a very long time back. And so one thing that we do in schools with these 13 to 17-year-olds is to talk to them about the dad factor.
Okay.
So that they can get to a place where they can forgive their dads before it actually festers into this wound.
Okay.
Yes.
I know we want to hear a lot more about these, because all of you, I think, are involved in amazing programs, so we'll try and find time for you to expound on that. But just going back, and maybe I can rope you in, Brian, before I hear from John and Sally. When were you ever talked to about things like hygiene or how to treat a girl or a woman or about sex? Were you ever, did your dad ever have that conversation with you?
No. I think when I was growing up, if let's say, an issue like you're having a girlfriend could arise in the house, that you're having a girlfriend, that was an abomination in the house.
Really?
The beating that you could get, it was wrong to date her in school. That was the things you were getting. We grew up knowing that life is structured. You finish primary, you finish high school, go to university, get a good degree, get a good job, look for this woman. There's per se, some other tribes are given a tribe, look for this woman from a given tribe, have kids, then you pass on what you are taught. Let the kids go to school. That's how the structure was. And even when the doctor was saying about being timid, when I was growing up, there was a saying that we used to follow: no matter the economy, a lion can never eat grass. So when the girls in class were like open, they were like pushing forward, as men, we could become timid. Why? Once you find yourself in a position where you're competing with a girl, it makes you weak. She's a girl. Even when you're playing football, the team that had the girl in the team was the weaker team, automatically. So that's what we grew up knowing. So things like sexuality, we were left for the friends to define them to us.
So did you learn about it from your friends?
Yes, I learned it from my friends back in high school, whereby you could finish a holiday and then come back to school, so people come with stories. That first week prep time, people are giving you stories, so like you want to know more. And then when you go out for these funkies, it's like you're being trained. So you go out with a mentor, you talk to a girl for 2 minutes, he's like, no, if the conversation dies, say this, to pick up. So it's like you're being trained by someone.
Again, I still want to come back to you too, but there's another question I want to ask you. You seem to have your head on straight right now. I mean, as you know. So at what point, you said you kind of lacked that mentorship from your dad. You could have fallen in the wrong crowd. I'm assuming you haven't fallen in the wrong crowd right now. You haven't. So what is it that made you make certain decisions or become so aware of what it means to be a young man in society? When did that switch begin to happen?
The switch began to happen, my mom never used to beat us.
Okay.
When you wronged my mom, she could cry.
Oh.
And by you seeing that pain, she could tell you she's feeling pain, so don't do this again. And then you have a bigger brother. The bigger brother used to act like the dad. So my mom could report us to him.
Okay.
So when he's coming from university, they're like, sit down. This alifanya hii, alifanya hii, alifanya hii. So depending on the gifts that he has come with, they were distributed depending on the...
So that form of... So the discipline was really from your older brother?
Yeah, the discipline from my older brother and then my mom.
Okay.
So issues like my mom could come to school, he's a noisemaker, nipe kiboko. They beat me up, but the dad, it was all about fear. And once you fear someone, it's so hard to learn anything.
To relate to them. Interesting. Now, your perspective, I think, on the boy factor and when it's important to begin to talk to them about these things.
I think from experience as a mother of boys who are now adults, in fact, I hear the young man talking, you're 25. That's the age of my son.
Yeah.
My sons are 25 and 24. And when you're talking about the girlfriend issue being an abomination, I'm wondering, because we've been quite liberal about it. We've been quite open in a sense that it's better you let them know there's an age at which it's allowed, and you're friends with your sons so that they share, they talk to you a lot about that transition into dating and everything, so you're able to correct them and help them, as opposed to stopping them or forbidding them. Then they'll date behind your back and they'll make mistakes which you can't correct them. So I'm thinking your parents must be the age, my age, and I'm wondering why they would have had such a... So it's differences. You see, different homes are different perspective. It's interesting. The other way, when it comes to talking to sons, at least from my experience, and the ladies I've mentored and talked to, early, I think from as early as you're saying 7, 8, 9, 10, there were basic issues I felt I needed to talk to my sons about, if it's hygiene. And because you don't want to wait until they're 15 to tell them how to treat girls, how to treat women, because treating girls is how you treat women later on. So as I taught them how you don't treat girls like this, respect for girls,
don't hit them,
don't hit them,
that kind of
don't
thing,
do this, how you carry yourself, hygiene, how you talk, even to your elders. I think I felt there was an advantage in starting early, even about sexuality and the differences. As early as the child, you could tell he was understanding, so that you're not waiting until he's caught it from outside and got the wrong lessons. But the other thing I wanted to go back to, what I've discovered in terms of rectifying the situation, I don't think the boys are less intelligent than the girls. I don't think the girls suddenly got empowered and they became cleverer or more able of doing a job that the girls are doing. I think what I find with boys, they need that respect, that respect. A lot of times as mothers, we miss it. I've missed it a lot of times, and I've had to learn how to correct it. When you don't respect your sons as they grow, there's an age at which there are things you don't talk, there's a way you don't talk to him, even in public, or even to him, and it demeans him. There's the affirmation aspect, because what they need is not that they're not as intelligent or as capable. I think just need the affirmation. You are capable. Even if the girls have really stood up and you know, a girl, you are a farmer and she 360 degrees, I mean, she goes overboard. With boys, once you affirm, I think the constant affirmation, that's what I found with my boys, because they are surrounded by very proactive women. I mean, you know, girls their age are very aggressive and very no and everything. And the way to stop my boys from becoming intimidated, because they're just as intelligent as these girls and capable, is affirming, constantly reminding them who you are, your identity, you are capable. It's not a competition, you're not fighting with these girls. And the respect. I think sometimes we undermine them. And even like, I remember my boys asking them things that they felt were very, to me it wasn't embarrassing. You know, like, are you clean? Have you washed? Have you brushed your teeth? That can kill him. That can destroy a young man. Yet to you as a mother, it's a normal question, and you ask in front of an auntie or in front of, you know, in front of friends, and to him you've messed him totally.
He wants the ground
his
to swallow
image
him.
is destroyed. So I slowly learned how boys, how you need to handle them with respect.
I love the affirmation, but I think that makes a huge difference. You've raised 4 sons.
Yes.
They're now 3 of them are adults, or 2 of them?
2 of them are
adults and 2 are teens.
And two are teens. One is a teen, the other one is 8 years, class 3. I agree. 8 years. By 8 years, the child, the boy, will be looking for that identity of being a man. Affirmation, I agree. But you can only do that when you have time with this boy, when you grow together with this boy. Because children are different. My sons are different. So I try to create time to know each and every one of them individually. Because the quality for this boy is different from the other. Even God gives us different gifts. Right? So that is where now the major problem comes in. When we don't have time for these children to be able to understand them as individuals.
How do you make time? Someone watching might be saying, but I'm so overwhelmed, I'm busy, I have 3 or 4 sons, I have kids, but I can't find time. How would you advise someone to make time or take the time when he's still trying to provide, to spend time with the children?
I know somebody asked me this about 3 months ago, and I said this: time is never there, it's always created. Depending on what you value, you create time for that. I never carry work home. Work is for the office, I'll finish in the office. I really work. But once I finish in the office and I go home, that's time now for me and my family. Whatever time that I have, I will dedicate it for the family. 2, I normally say this: there are 2 things I can never delegate. I can never delegate being a husband. I can never delegate being a father. So for my children, for every function in school, be it a sports day, be it a parents' day, I have always been there. Because that's how I realized I will connect with these children.
And you've seen the difference it's made? You have a good relationship with them?
I've seen the difference. But what hit me, and I would like most men to hear this, what hit me is when my firstborn, who is now going 28, when he was about 10 years old, there's a man who I was looking up to. You know, a rich man, and you know, bringing up, and he known that he's passed on. But one time when I was talking over with him, he told me this: Kanyoni, God gave me children, property, a lot of it, but He didn't give me children. But I asked this old man, but I know your sons. But he told me, yes, but those are not children. On a flashback, to me was, okay, I knew the children, I would know how well they are drinking and involved in drugs, mature though that time. But to me, the question that hit me was, will it come a time for me to be able to say, God gave me property and didn't give me children? That's when I decided now to invest in my children. That's when I decided to bond with my children, to be friendly. When you play around with your children, because when you're around there, there are some traits you'll be able to pick up from your children. And I would pick up even the moods and the emotions of my children, of my boys, as they were growing up. Then I would know, for this one, I'm either going to research or I'm going to pray about it to be able to know how I'm going to handle him as an individual. Because it's very, very important. We can't bring up children on a generalized form. Every child is unique in their own way, and you need to understand that child to be able to bring them up in that
Wow.
form. Yes.
Okay. We'll need to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll need to hear your way forward, and also a little bit about all the programs that you're doing in trying to really address this issue. So again, the hashtag Monday Special KE, I'll read some of your tweets after this, and of course text us on 22422. We'll come back and try and get a way forward on how we can improve the relationship that we have with boys and men in society. And we're back on the final part of Monday's Special tonight, talking about raising sons, the plight of the boy child in society, and what we can do to better empower them, to raise them to be great men in society. I believe we have some tweets. Let's see if we can take a look at those feedback. Yes, of course, Betty Murungi says, men need to step up. Women shouldn't be expected to do everything, including being male role models for sons. Come on. Okay, so strong views there. Chantal Ongaro says, successful men should lay down strategies on how to empower the boy child. This will give them insights of a brighter future. That's a good point. Yeah. Brian Mbego says, all we need is a balance in mentorship. Let's not focus the boy child again too much later and then come back to the girl child. Okay, fair enough. And then we have at Ram Aguko saying, the upbringing, mentorship and empowerment of the boy child is the duty of the parents. It starts from them, not programs. Okay. And that Sam Monjoria says, identity is not derived from roles, but purpose. Today, what a man can do, a woman can do generally. Okay, and then the final tweet. Oh, I think that was the last one. Okay, I'll try and see if I can read one or two more before we go. And yeah, let's get before we hear the final word and a little bit about your programs. There's a question being asked about what about single moms raising boys? How does that happen? What kind of that also brings its own set of issues. Very quickly, perhaps the two of you can kind of give your own thoughts and views on as single parent, single moms raising boys.
Very briefly, Janet, I've researched on that a lot and also heard firsthand from single mothers about the challenges they go through. Because a stage comes, I think at about 13, when the boy needs to transition into manhood, and he needs a male figure to call him out into manhood. And when it's a single parent, a single mom without a father in the place, the mother needs to get a role model, a male role model, like an uncle or her father, the grandfather, or somebody else in society who can play that role. Because when that is missing, what apparently happens, you get into the mother-son bonding syndrome, where they get, the mother steps into that role, which is not really her role. I like what Betty Murungi is saying, that it's not the role of the woman to mentor a boy when he needs a father mentor, a male mentor. So unfortunately, in some situations where the lady steps into that, so she does her best out of a lack of any other choice.
But she should be looking for a male role model.
Yes, she should. Okay. So she tries to play that role, but it doesn't work. Because what happens is that bond, that closeness, ultimately, apparently, later on, may come to affect his relationship with other women and his wife in general. And it can either be negative or positive. They say Bill Clinton was a single mother child, but he became a president.
Exactly.
Tiger Woods was more raised by his mom than his dad. Barack Obama was a single mother situation. So it can either go either way, depending on how the woman handles it and getting male models for her son.
Since we're still on you, maybe we can just get your final word and just a little bit more about the program you run.
I'm passionate about raising sons because I have two wonderful sons who, by the grace of God, have now finished school and in the job market. And I've watched my friends, some in couples and some single mothers, struggle. We've struggled with this, trying to raise these men of strength. I have a Seasoned Woman Forum for women where I bring together women in the marketplace from the different spheres, and we deal with soft issues like this. We deal with parenting. We deal with raising daughters of destiny, sons of strength, relationships, things that come to topple us on our way to destiny. And raising sons is one of them. And we've dealt with it, and from the forums I've done, and later on I've gone on to mentor a lot of these single women, single parent, in their situations with raising their sons, when their sons come to adulthood, where they feel there's something lacking, there's something not quite going right, and hence the need. I felt there was a need for that conversation. What did you do? How can you help another woman in how did you handle it? What did you do about it? What were the challenges and things like that?
Website, Facebook page?
Yes,
anything?
we're on Facebook, the seasonedwoman.seasonedwoman on Facebook and website. And we can't remember the telephone number right now.
It's okay.
But yes,
usually,
all right. Seasoned Woman Forum.
Okay, Seasoned Woman. All right. Thank you so much for that, John.
Single mothers are a very big challenge, and I normally say it's because personally, it's because it was not the plan of God. The plan of God was husband, a man, wife, and then the children. No man should become a father before he's a husband. But once now that has happened, the challenge from when the boy, and also the girls, at the age from 10 and coming to teenage, the father figure is very important. Dad is destiny. It is a man who calls out the girl into womanhood. The girls, even when they get married, what they compare with is how their fathers were. Boys, to be that affirmation, even Jesus himself had the affirmation from God for him to start ministry. This is my beloved son. From that affirmation he started his ministry. This is what men we should be doing, we should be calling out.
Tell us a bit about Man Enough.
Man Enough is now a program under the umbrella of Transform Nations, and Man Enough is a forum. It's actually a program where men come together to look at the issues. Where did we lose it? It's a 10-week program with a camp at the end. There are 8 very magnificent topics that we handle. First, we start looking at the manhood defined. We have various definitions from when we were growing up. What is manhood? So we look at what is the ideal and the purposes of God when man was created. What are the roles of a man? And what is the purpose of man? The man on a mission. Then after that, we look at what are the factors, what are the issues that will stop this man, will delay this man,
will hold him back,
from becoming that kind of man. And eventually now we look at what next now for them. We finish with a course, with a topic for God and country, because that's what the man is created for.
All right.
Maybe I would say, other than Man Enough, because I facilitate Man Enough, I also facilitate Shudaa Dad. And Shudaa Dad is another program through Transform Nations from Pastor Simon Bevy. And it's a 5 very important topics.
But now focusing on fathers.
Focusing on fathers.
Okay. I think people can read about these by going online. You just key it in and the program information is
I think by the time we will finish, Eric will give the website and the contact for Transform Nations. Yes.
All right. Oh, I understand. My producers are telling me that the website... the website details are there, so, but we'll scroll, we'll put it all. All right, your parting words, a little bit about the programs that you do as well.
Well, I run Boys to Men. We have had run it for about 5 years. It's actually the oldest program that Transform Nations has run. And we run it primarily in schools. We've had it run in Starehe, we've had it Taiwe Secondary School, Aquinas. Currently we are at Alliance and at Ofafa High School, Ofafa Boys High School. And essentially Boys to Men is a program where, just like Man Enough, we look at what manhood is all about. We give a definition for what God's purpose for manhood was, and we paint a picture of what manhood should look like. And we then go into issues such as identity and sexuality, and I mentioned the dad factor earlier on. We also look at the roles of a man, so that earlier on, before they've even gotten into campus, even before they've started dating and the likes, they already know what is required of them. We also look at the traps of masculinity, because those are things that would withhold this boy from actually becoming that man that he needs to be.
All right. And then I think all of these are under Transform Nations. I think we have the details. Let's see if we can bring up those details so that people can take note of them. Okay, so that's info at Transform Nations -.net, and of course the website. I think the website is really the go-to. Transform-nations.net, just for people to get more information, and at the end again I'll get the information from Sally on Seasoned Woman. Brian, your parting words. I mean, this is a conversation that can go on for a long time. He's just mentioned something very interesting, the role of the man. I would have loved to delve into that, but you know, the time isn't on our side. But what would you want to say about raising sons or raising young men in society today?
To me, I can say is let's stop the blame game. Whereby we blame the men, we blame the women. We always blame each other until there's no one else to blame. It's all about, it's a high time we address the issue. And us being here, we can really say there's an issue with being men. One thing I can say, in as much as you can become a good parent, as much as you can try your best, you know, there's no curriculum of raising up a boy to become a man. No one will evaluate you. What I can know is, I think parents should pray for their children. In as much as you invest in teaching them stuff, if you don't pray for them, they can be entering through here
and coming out through the other ear. Okay.
So it's just basic. Do the basics. Pray and teach them the basics. And everything will fall into place.
All right. Thank you so much, all of you, really just bringing out really powerful points. Like I said, this is a discussion that I think needs to be had more often, because there is an issue. You said it's seasonedwoman.net.
.co.ke.
Oh, seasonedwoman.co.ke. So seasonedwoman.co.ke as well, just to get more information on that program. But once again, thank you all so much for your insight and your feedback. I think it's helped a lot of people. There's great feedback on the show. And thank you for watching Monday Special tonight. Like I said, my colleague Hussein is away for some time, so I'll be holding fort on my own. I'm Janet Mbogwandishu. Have a lovely night, and we'll see you again soon.